Let's start with a story. Imagine being a customer of a website for booking amazing trips. Yet it's 2026, right? So you open your favorite LLM chat, you quickly authorize your favorite website, and you add a prompt. I want to go to Brazil and spend a romantic weekend in the middle of April. Book me a spot in a 5-star hotel, just make sure the weather is great. Please. You wait a second for the assistant to do its magic, and it's done. You hear a sound of a new email incoming. It's a new booking confirmation for your next trip to Sao Paulo. Well, wouldn't that be amazing? In order to make this dream come true, today I'm going to show you how to create a production-ready MCP server using Ruby on Rails and program all that you've just seen. Hi, I'm Paweł Strzałkowski. I've been doing web development for the last 30 years or so. Yes, I started when I was 13. I'm currently the CTO of Visuality, a Ruby agency from Warsaw, Poland. We specialize in helping established Rails product grow. I'm also a part of Century Perspective consultancy group, where we help products and teams with AI transformation. If you have problems with that, you know where to find me. I'm sure that most of us and you guys have already used Model Context Protocol to some extent, but I can't assume you all know it well. So let's start with a quick introduction, starting with what happens without Model Context Protocol. Well, an application may use an LLM by sending prompts, receiving responses, but LLMs themselves can't connect anywhere. They can't check for updated knowledge sources. Yet applications have no such limits. Application can connect to any service using, for example, APIs. So application can get additional information, additional context, and application can add this additional context to the prompt sent to an LLM. This way, LLM may provide a response based on the enhanced prompts. So in such an interaction, LLM reacts to real-time information fetched from some other third party. Since we enhance the initial prompt with information about travel agency, let's say, now LLM can answer demanding us to connect once again to travel agency and maybe book a trip or list some other trips. Well, so even without a specialized protocol, LLM can be provided additional context, but we have to program each interaction on the way between the application, LLM, third party, and so on. It would be great to perform these operations using an AI-native protocol. And as at least most of you probably know, such a protocol has been invented and has been called, surprisingly, Model Context Protocol, MCP in short. So what's MCP? It's an open standard that all of you can use. It has been introduced by Anthropic in November 2024, widely adopted later on. Basically, it standardizes the way of providing additional context to LLMs. Let's dig in. The central element of MCP protocol is called MCP host. And this is the name you will never hear again, probably, because no one calls it that. But MCP host is the user-facing application. So for example, ChatGPT, UI, Claude, Cursor, you name it. Host application communicates with LLMs using prompts and responses, as I already mentioned. Now, MCP servers provide additional context to host over HTTP. Of course, MCP server can also run on the same machine as MCP host, but it's not the case for us today. We will be not talking about that. We will not be talking about communication over standard input-output. We are communicating over HTTP. Now, MCP host fetches additional context from servers using MCP client libraries. Since it fetched the additional context, whenever it communicates with the LLM, it adds to the prompt additional information, additional context fetched from the servers. So I've said that MCP servers expose context, but what context is? Context is built of so-called primitives, and the basic primitives are tools, the most sexy one, the one everyone uses. So tools are capabilities of the server. A server can forecast weather for a given location and date, or can publish an article of a given ID. Anything a server can do can be exposed as a tool. The other primitives are resources, basically data, and the last are MCP prompts, standardized recipes for user of the final application to use, which resonate well with the given server. Let's go over a single simplified use case. We are starting an LLM chat application. Our MCP host has already two servers configured, travel agency application and weather forecast application. When we start, we first fetch primitives from all the servers. First, travel agency application returns some tools, some resources, then weather forecast application returns a tool as well. Now, a user enters with a prompt. Book me a romantic, exotic trip, just make sure the weather's good. We send the prompt and the tools that we loaded from the MCP servers to LLM. Now, LLM doesn't respond with, I don't know how to book a trip. It has the tools, it has the means to do something, so it responds with tool call request, list romantic trips. MCP host executes the tool at the MCP server that provided it, saying, call tool, list romantic trips. In response, we get an array of 3 trips to Barcelona, to Sao Paulo, and to Rome. Once again, MCP host takes all the information so far, the initial prompt, the initial response, the additional context from the server, and sends once again to LLM to figure it out. Now with the additional context, LLM responds with 3 tool call requests to check whether in each of the cities listed in the list of the trips. And now we are asking weather forecast application for the weather in Spain, in Brazil, and Italy. 1, 2, and 3. We've just gotten 3 weather forecasts. And once again, we take the initial prompt, the entire conversation so far, and we send it once again to the LLM to figure out what to do as the next step. And now, finally, LLM responds with yet another tool call request to book a trip 41. Guess what that is. So that's the magic of MCP already. And LLM's driven logic is able to interact with real-life applications. And you guys can control multiple applications using just plain language. And you get all this conditional knowledge and all the integrations out of the box without a single line of code. So how to build an application that exposes an MCP server? Looking at the problem from the Rails application's perspective, we have to expose an endpoint or have a standalone process on a selected port. This is how Action MCP does it, as far as I remember. We have to handle the endpoint according to MCP specification. We have to define tools, prompts, resources, and with an asterisk, we might want to enable authorization as well. So all of that, I will just keep going. All of that, well, that's quite a lot. That's why I prepared a template called MCP on Rails, which you can find at my GitHub repository. Shall I wait?
No, go ahead.
Fantastic, thank you. You can find it in here. The link will be shown again in the future as well. Okay, we are doing great. So what's a template? Well, I haven't really used templates before I figured out this. I've heard about them, I've known that they exist, but I didn't really have a chance to use them or opportunity. So, but since I've built this, I've been using it quite often. You can clone it from my repository, and whenever you create a Rails new application, you can just say, hey, use this template. Or you can use it with an existing application. It's just a script. Basically, it's just a script that adds some new features, some new gems, some new configuration to your application. What's inside? Inside, there's a bunch of files, a bit more than on the list, but, well, I have limited space. So first of all, this template adds the MCP gem, which is the official Ruby SDK for Model Context Protocol. You can use other gems as well. There are better and worse. But I had to choose one, so official SDK seems like a good idea. The template adds a controller that exposes an endpoint /MCP, both post and gets, because this is what the specification says. On top of that, you get a generator, MCP tool generator, which allows you to generate new tools with Rails-like syntax already. And you also get one cherry on the top. You get an extension to scaffold controller generator. So whenever you scaffold a new model, a new controller, you get additionally 5 tools for each of the CRUD operations that you all know and love. So whenever you add a new model, you, out of the box, get 5 MCP tools. So an MCP host can already interact with your site after a simple scaffold. Good we go. OK. So there is much more inside, but for now, that's the template, our tool for all the upcoming code exercises. All right. So with that, let's build a Ruby on Rails application with MCP in 5 minutes, because, well, it shouldn't take more. So let's start by, it's quite small, but let's start with just cloning the template for those who has never used the template. OK, that's it. Let's go forward. Now we run Rails new with adding the template. It's -m, and you just point to the folder /MCP. Let's call the application city break time. It asks us one thing, whether it should add authorization to this application, OAuth authorization. For the time being, we say no. This is the simplified example. All right, since it's a city break application, city break time, so we need a model. Let's scaffold a model called city break. It has a city, which is a string. It has a country, which is a string. And since it's a city break idea, let's discuss we have must see as a text and avoid as a text. OK, we have a scaffolded model. Now we are asked, do you want MCP tools? And yes, we want them all. So we just gotten 5. Now we have city break model. Let's add comments, because of course we are building a social network. So we scaffold a comment which has content as a string, and city break, which it references. Again, we are asked whether we want MCP tools. Yes, we want 5 of them. What's left? We have to run a migration and start the server. And pretty much we've just built our first MCP server. So what's inside? The template gives you guys already a rake task, MCP tools, which lists all the tools generated so far. So for each model, we got those classes which represent the tools. We have one for creation, deletion, listing, showing, and updating each of the models. But what's inside? If we look closely, for this one is creation of a city break. It comes with all the parameters that an active records model would get. It has a description, it has a tool name, it has some annotations, whether this MCP tool is destructive, and so on and so forth. However, inside, it's just Rails logic. So we just have city break new, we save it, and we return something to the caller. In here, we just say we've created a city break, or it has failed. That's creation. What else do we have? So we have a show tool for a city break. This one has a required ID parameter, as you would expect from a Rails endpoint in some sense. What else? We are able to list city break entities. In here, by default, well, it's quite hard to list things over MCP. It's not meant to do that. So in here, we just list the last 10 or any number that a user has requested. And one addition I wanted to show you, this is listing of comments. Comments reference city breaks. So if a model references some other, those parameters are also included in the input schema. So we can ask to list comments of a given city break. But inside, again, it's just Rails logic that you could find in any other place in your application. All right, so let's connect our server with an MCP host. What you need to do in most cases, for most of the MCP hosts, in here we are using Cloud Desktop, you have to expose your server to the internet. It has to have a public URL. It has to be a secure connection. So you can deploy with Camel. I didn't want to cover that today because we have quite a lot of other things to say. I'm just exposing the server using ngrok, or reverse proxy tool. Whoever used that knows what I'm talking about. If not, you can just treat it as an application exposed to the internet, a deployed application. All right, so we have a public URL already. We have Cloud Desktop running. Let's add a so-called connector. This is MCP, but Cloud calls it a connector. Let's give a name. The name is kind of irrelevant in here, city break time. We put the URL /MCP. We already see all the tools that we've created were identified by Cloud, and we add a prompt. Write 3 city break ideas for Rome, Sao Paulo, New York. Make the must-see and the must-avoid section worthy of a LinkedIn post. Already Cloud identified that it has some tools, so it has loaded the tools and used the city break create tool to create the first entry about New York. Now the second entry is going to be about Sao Paulo, most probably. And the last, as we asked, for about New York. But this way, we used Cloud and an LLM-driven communication to interact with a Rails application. So one thing that I can comment, I've just been to Sao Paulo. It's fantastic, so let's comment on that idea. This is what the prompt says. And if we switch our Rails application to the comments section, we will see that it has used the comment create tool, and we have our first comment. You can use already this for many things. If you expose, for example, the catalog of your products, you can allow people to use LLMs to browse your product catalog. However, there is one problem that Greg would have something to talk about: no authorization. Everyone can use our tools. Now, again, coming to the MCP authorization from Rails flow, what do we need to do? There is a Rails controller, MCP controller, which, for us to use authorization in this flow, needs to be able to detect user identity. Once MCP controller has this identity detected, it can put that into the MCP server logic using server context parameter. It's a hash where we can just include user ID. And whenever we process MCP tool logic, we receive that server context hash. We can take the user ID, and we can instantiate the user, and we can apply policy, and we can do everything in the context of that user. The only problem is how to provide the user identity to MCP controller. Well, there are at least a couple of possibilities. First of all, you can use an old plain API key. You can put that in the URL of your, in the get parameter of your MCP server. So you can ask your users to put server URL and the get parameter of an API key, for example. I'm not saying it's the best idea. I'm just saying you can do that. You can also put that token as a bearer token. And I'm saying you can do that, but there are production solutions that use that. If those solutions are developer-focused, then it can work. Let's put it like this. It's a possible solution. However, for the most part, you probably want to use OAuth. The only problem is it's no OAuth 2.0 that we all kind of know probably to some extent or used. It's OAuth 2.1, which needs some additional elements, which I will discuss later on. But first of all, let's jump into this URL param idea. And this is the entire implementation. Like, don't do it like this for sure. But if you have known API keys tied to user IDs, Whenever you have a new request, you can just detect which user ID it is, and you provide that to the server context at the very bottom. And that's it. With this, your tool will get user ID, which you can process however you want. Yet, it's not the solution you probably want to go to or with. You want to have MCP with OAuth flow. And not to sound too cryptic, I've prepared a demo where you will, first of all, you will see how it works, and later on I will show you how to get there. So on the left, we have a Rails application based on Avo, in fact, and on the right, again, we have Cloud code. So we are adding a new connector. Since I recorded this, the UI has changed a bit, but we have a URL /MCP, we add it, and, well, it doesn't connect. It's disconnected, and we have this connect button. When we click it, a browser is opened automatically, and we have to log in. When we log in, we are asked to authorize the connection with Cloud. And once we do it, only then Cloud connects to our MCP server and exposes a tool. Now, if we use this tool, our application would have the context of the user who has just logged in. I don't know how you guys, but whenever I hear OAuth and Rails, I think Doorkeeper. It's a gem, it's a Rails engine that allows you to use OAuth to provider functionality. It's not the only one. There's like 5 others, but for me, it's usually the first choice. And for this, Doorkeeper is great as well. Doorkeeper is almost enough. You just need, well, you do need to change a few things, but this is what templates for. But basically, you have to add dynamic client registration, DCR, which is required by the MCP specification and is nowhere near in the Doorkeeper implementation. The other part, the proof key for code exchange, PKCE, is supported, is embedded in Doorkeeper. You just have to enable that, among other configuration settings. But Doorkeeper gives you the authentication, because OAuth is about authentication. But it doesn't give you authorization. You still have to have a device or any other authorization technique to use. Now, OAuth flow contains that data exchange between multiple actors, and I'm not going to talk about it. You should probably dive into this if you want to. It's not that hard, actually. It's very readable, just not on the tiny screen with tiny font. But we don't have to understand the entire graph. We just need this at the very top: authenticate and grant consent. So if we are able to make sure that a user, in order to grant consent, has to be logged in, then we already have an user ID, which we can embed into the generated token. And if the user ID is embedded into the OAuth token, whenever this token is used for MCP, we can recreate it. We can recreate the user ID from that. And that's it. We just have to intercept this one element. And basically, you don't have to do that at all. It might be seen as quite a lot, but you can ask Claude to explain that all. But you don't have to do that. You have that in the template that I'm showing. So once again, we can build a Ruby on Rails application with MCP and authorization. And again, it shouldn't take us more than 5 minutes. So let's build a travel agency this time with authorization. So we start with Rails new travel agency -m MCP on Rails /MCP. This time, we'll be asked about whether we want to add OAuth1 flow, which in fact adds a device gem, Doorkeeper gem, and the needed configuration. Almost there. In here, I won't be scaffolding a large model. In here, I'm just generating a model. It's called trip because we are a travel agency. It has country, it has city, some description, where it starts, whether it's romantic as well. So all that for a trip. All right, the next one, what we want to scaffold, in here we're going to scaffold a booking model. In here we are scaffolding. I need front end for you to see that it actually works. So I'm scaffolding booking. Booking just references a user and references a trip, and that's all it does. All right, I think it went through, hopefully. And in here, even though I was scaffolding a model and a controller as well, I just said it not to scaffold MCP tools. We don't need them. What I want in here is to build the tools ourselves. Oh, OK. One thing. Since we are a travel agency, I figured we need some trips. So I've prepared a seed file like this. So we have some trips. And to give you the full flow, I'm just copying the seed file into the application, and I'm running the seeds. All right. So since the application is almost ready, now I want to build the two tools that we're going to need. So I'm using the generator Rails MCP tool. I want to generate a romantic trips list tool, and the second tool I want to use is called book trip. It takes one parameter, trip ID. The syntax of generating the tools is exactly the same as you would generate anything in Rails. All right, now some coding time. And I don't know, well, this will be handcrafted, so this might be one of the last chances to see someone actually type some code. So let's add logic to the new tools. The first one is list romantic trips. So we give it a description, a list of romantic trips, which can be later booked. And we just load the trips from Rails. Let's use the romantic true boolean just to show the romantic trips. And in here, I'm mapping it using toMCP response. This is like a helper method that's included in the template as well. It just converts it to plain text. All right, so we have the first tool already built. The second one is a bit bigger, so I'm going to copy-paste. But again, it's very simple. It has some description. It has this required trip ID parameter. As you can see, it loads user ID from server context. It gets trip ID as the required ID, and it just creates a booking and returns some statement. Whatever you returned from an MCP tool should be a human-readable text or JSON in some cases. All right, so we've already built two custom tools. And for now, let's relive the story which I started the presentation with. Let's book a trip for a romantic weekend. Right, on the left, you have travel agency application. On the right, we have a weather forecast application, which I built in the meantime. It has just one tool to forecast weather. So I'm starting both the servers. And let's add our travel agency to Claude. A keen eye can see that weather forecast is already there, and it uses API key as the parameter of get travel agency URL/MCP. And again, it's not connected by default. I hit connect. And since it's a new application, well, I have to create an account first. No styling to make it more believable. And once I create an account, I can authorize the request from Claude. As soon as I click it, I see the tools that we've created. Now, most of you probably don't use Claude through Claude Desktop, but most of you probably use it through Claude Code. And whatever you set in Cloud Desktop, it also applies for Cloud Code. So if we run /MCP, we can see travel agency and weather forecast. So let's put the same prompt. I want to spend a romantic weekend in Brazil. Book me the most romantic spot. Just make sure the weather is great. It starts by asking whether it can use romantic trips list tool. It receives several trips, and it checks the weather in 5 different Brazilian cities. We even have a nice table, but guys, sorry, Sao Paulo lost. It was raining. So Rio won, and we get the question whether it can book a trip using ID2. And once I confirmed, we have this. The booking created for user ID 2 and trip ID 2. So we've just used our MCP host, our application, our Cloud, to interact with Rails application in the user context. Very quickly, I think I'm out of time. Just a few tips from production. LLMs handle tools differently. Like, don't expect GPT-4 Mini to handle it well. Anthropic would be great. State-of-the-art models would be great. Just be cautious with the others. Less is more. Watch out for context window usage. Limit the number of tools. You don't want to have 100 tools, even if the models are better and better, have bigger context window. It will just bloat your context right off. You can create compound tools, not the 5 as I showed you, the 5 for CRUD. Just create maybe one. One thing don't use, and I was bitten by that, don't use conditional parameters. Like, parameters of a tool have to be straightforward and understandable. Don't use a description of this parameter can only be used if that other parameter is used. This is not understandable for an LLM. Descriptions are your friend. Use great descriptions and just ask Claude to fix them. Don't try to be better at language than a large language model. Claude knows better, or any other LLM, how to fix your descriptions. And be explicit, be readable, use intentional revealing names, and put exactly how a parameter should be used. For example, put date syntax. LLM will do it wrongly sometimes still, but give it a chance. Handle errors, monitor, and log everything. Like, put 5 log statements in your MCP tools before you learn what's really happening. And guys, just have fun. It's really fun, and you can create great use cases. Maybe some of those would be going to production. Some of them would be toy applications for your family. Just have fun. And let me know, maybe on LinkedIn or anywhere you can find me, how it went. Thank you very much.